Hello, Psych2Go viewers. Thank you for joining us right now for our New Year special. I'm so excited. I'm here with the amazing Dr. Rajan to talk about everything post-holiday New Year's resolutions, how to make those resolutions come true, and everything in between. Welcome, Dr. Rajan.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. And, I know that we're probably counting down to the new year now. So, yeah,
Exactly.
this is awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I'm so excited because we're going to answer all of your questions. Dr. Rajan is here to do that, to answer all of your post-holiday questions or even any questions you have, about just anything. So that's what this is about. It's the holiday event. So I'm really excited. And first, I wanted to start off the stream with just asking Dr. Rajan, how do you feel about New Year's resolutions? Do you think it's good to have a list of New Year's resolutions, or do you think that it's kind of just an unnecessary social construct?
I am not a fan of New Year's resolutions. And here's why.
Wow.
Here's why. Because there's a psychological reason for it. Most of us, when we look at, it's part of our biological wiring. We're wired to look more at the negative because it's a way of keeping ourselves safe. It's a way of being able to scope out our environment and make choices based on survival. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how we're wired. So if we apply that to the year, a lot of people, when they look back on the year, the natural response is not to go to gratitude. The natural response is, oh man, I was supposed to do that this year. Oh, still haven't lost this weight. I still haven't done this. I haven't. So then what does resolution become? When we get to the new year, we start to be reactive, right? Remember what I've said before about being responsive rather than reactive. If we're in a reactive energy, then we're in that space of fear and lack. So I messed it up again. I didn't get there this year. So I have to do this, and this as soon as the new year starts, right? So where's
Exactly.
that coming from? That's more of an energy of fear. It's more of an energy of lack. And anything that you are motivated, if fear and lack are motivating you, it's not going to last because you're not going to be
Exactly.
able to sustain it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why when people are carrying those extra pounds, they're like, oh man, I'm going to hit the gym, doing it. New Year's Day, going. And then what? Um, Maybe 10 days later, a couple weeks later, it's like, I'm not feeling like going to the gym today. And then we start to wane. Pretty soon we're back into our old habits. Yeah.
It's like a setup for failure in a way.
It is because we're putting pressure on ourselves, right? And I'm
Mhm.
not at all suggesting that you don't look to the new year for, new ways of being. I'm not saying that at all. But what I like to do is encourage people. Can I tell you about a New Year's exercise I give to my clients?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So what I tell my clients is, okay, maybe, take some time, maybe 2 or 3 days before New Year's, and start to reflect on what is staying behind in this year? What do I not want to take with me? Right. So I am going to lovingly, with gratitude, say, hey, I was grateful for this lesson, but I don't need it anymore. So I'm leaving this one behind. Right. So,
Okay.
like a way that I would look at emotional eating would be, well, I needed some comfort this year. This was a rough year. And so, yeah, okay, I ate more than I should have, but I don't need it anymore. So that one's staying behind in this old year, and whatever that looks like for everyone. And then when you're done with that, make a list. And when you're done with that, start setting intentions for what you are inviting into the new year. So maybe you're inviting health, you're inviting energy, you're inviting a new desire to take care of yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that you're reinforcing positive ways of thinking about health and self-care rather than I have to go to the gym. It's like, oh, it's beautiful outside. Maybe I'll go for a walk or something like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. And maybe setting realistic expectations, not like, oh, I'm gonna try to do everything right when the year begins. This is how commercialism works too. Like this is how gyms get you to sign up for membership.
Oh my God, our whole culture is set up around it, right?
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
resolution journals and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah.
hmm and that way you also are building in some grace towards yourself, because I think real powerful and lasting change comes from love, comes from compassion, it comes from, you know, being kind and loving to yourself. You're doing it because you care about yourself rather than being punitive, you know, punishing yourself. It's like, oh, I ate too
Yes.
much, so I'm going to do 2 hours at the gym instead of one. You know, how about that?
Exactly. That's a setup for burnout as well. Like
Totally.
you start to hate the gym too. That's actually like almost like a psychological thing. Even if you try not to hate the gym, if you force yourself to be there for 2 hours when you really don't want to be, then psychologically, even like subconsciously you start to hate it and then you
Oh,
don't
for
want to
sure.
go back.
No, then you have resistance, and it's like those of you who've been in therapy before, you know what resistance is. You start making up excuses. Well, you know, I don't really have time. Then you start, you know, thinking about all the things that you could be doing. You start to, well, you know, maybe I'll really clean out the kitchen today, or whatever it is. All of a sudden, everything seems more desirable than that thing you were going to do. Right.
Yeah, and just as a side note, I noticed that there are other ways to get exercise in and be active other than going to the gym if the gym isn't your thing. Like, for example, I don't personally love going to the gym too much, but, like, I'll go to the park, I'll, like, run or walk to the park, or cleaning your house is a good form of being active and burning calories, just as an aside.
Absolutely. And here's a little goofy thing that I do, like if I can't get out and do my walk or whatever, but I have to clean. If I'm
Mhm.
doing the laundry and I have like a big load or whatever, I will go to the garage, fold my socks, walk back to the kitchen or walk back, put my socks away, then go fold my pant, you know, what do it so that you're taking several trips to
Mhm.
the laundry so that you're getting your steps in. If you guys are steppers out there, you know, with your pedometers, you know, the 10,000 steps or whatever it is.
Exactly. And so I was gonna ask for those viewers in the comments, tell us one New Year's goal that you have, just because I just wanna see what you guys have, and I will read some of them out to Dr. Rajan, but so everyone in the comments, please do that, and then I was gonna ask, Dr. Rajan, do you believe in New Year, new beginnings rather than, resolutions, or how do you feel about, like, the
Yeah,
New
I mean,
Year's
I
beginning?
say intention setting is a good way to frame it.
Intention. Mhm.
Because intentions are not anything that all we're doing when we set intentions is that we are opening ourselves up, we're opening up from the space of awareness to see something in a new way.
Mhm.
We're opening up to receive more love. You know, we're opening up to receive more opportunities for success. And if we start giving those kinds of messages to ourselves, then the subconscious mind is going to be tracking and saying, "Oh, more opportunities. Okay, more happiness, more joy. Maybe you'll have a chance to socialize more." Or, oh, you know, so intentions, it's a softer way, but I think a more effective way to start shifting your energy so that absolutely you can have the new in the new year. I totally believe that. Hmm.
Exactly, and I think that we focus a lot on the negative, but, like, what about just continuing the positive things you're doing too? There's a lot of positive I'm sure
Hmm.
everyone's doing, or at least something, like, that's something to focus on and continue to do in the new year, not just, "Oh, well, I need to begin this." Well, continue to do what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think along with what am I leaving behind in the old year, what am I taking with me? What worked this year? Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself. You know, I really got good and about eating. I cultivated some good eating habits. Or, oh, I'm proud because I studied an extra hour every week, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, give yourselves a pat on the back for what's working and reaffirm, yep, that's coming with me. That's a good one. I'm taking that.
Thank you, Dr. John. And now that we
Yeah.
have a lot of people in the comments saying what the resolutions are, I wanted to begin with one right here where
Mhm.
Chloe says, "My goal is to stop crying." I wanted to bring this one up because I'm like, I don't think you should stop crying, Chloe. It's actually, how do you feel about this, Dr. John? Any advice for Chloe?
Hi, Chloe. Welcome. You know, I guess I would want to know why she's crying. I would say, I mean, tears. I think a lot of times we're socialized to just kind of suck it up, and you know, we get all Nike, like just do it, just get over it. You know, that's an ego-based way to live, and I don't think that that's a healthy way to live. I think that emotions are powerful and transformative, and they're a part of who we are. So some of us are more sensitive than others, and I think crying is an important expression. So if you're a bit more sensitive, and I'm a crier. I totally cry. I'm an empath and I'm very sensitive. I
Me too.
embrace it. And I think that, hey, this is something that needs space in my life right now. So I'm going to take some space and I'm going to cry and I'm going to process what's going on, because otherwise we're stifling who we really are.
Chloe said, "I'm very sensitive." No, that's actually a virtue. That's a good thing,
Yeah.
Chloe. If you're
Yeah.
wanting to limit crying maybe in public settings, I understand that, but, like, instead of maybe there's someone who's been shaming you about it, there's no reason to feel ashamed, There's no reason, so
Not at
I think
all. I mean, there's a book you might be interested in, Chloe, called The Highly Sensitive Person. And there's, I think, there's like a book and a workbook, but it's a very interesting read because um, it kind of gives insight as to what that means, and why you orient to the world in the way that you do. Sometimes if you're you're not like everyone else, which is a great thing. You don't, I mean, honor who you are, honor authentically who you are. Then it's nice to know what makes you tick or how you're wired. And sensitive people, I used to get shamed for it when I was growing up. And I
Oh,
had a very
me
tough
too.
father who meant well, but he wasn't emotionally available in the way that I needed him to be. And so I ended up thinking that crying was bad. And I had to learn how to be kinder and gentler with myself and to honor those tears, because that's who I am.
Exactly. Same here. I was shamed for crying when I was younger, and it was seen as a weakness when in reality, this is why I think that looking at it from almost like a male perspective, not my perspective, I'm female, but like from like males' perspective, they're always told that, oh, crying is a weakness and
Hmm.
what you're doing is bad. No wonder men think crying is a weakness since our society is conditioned to think that
And
way.
and there's the cultural piece too, because I know I'm South Indian. I know people who are watching from other parts of the world. Your culture probably has different attitudes about emotional expression, and that's very normal. That's very common. But I think that whatever your culture says you should be, take some space and connect with who you are, because regardless of what culture we are, regardless of what how we're socialized, we're all chemistry sets walking around. Emotions are a chemical response in the body and the brain. So honor your chemistry, honor who you are, because that's the path to real joy, is being free to be who you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr.
Mhm.
Rajan. So now we're going
Sure.
to start our round of questions. I'm super excited. This is what this is for. I'm really, really excited for this. So let's start with our first question by Toxic Hurricane. He asked, do you guys know how to explain mental health to old thinking parents? My parents are very old school and I don't know how to explain it. This is a great
Hmm.
question,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's tough. I know that it can be very difficult, especially when it comes to mental health, because I think naturally there's a lot of stigma around it. There's a lot of fear and negativity around what depression might be or anxiety. And all of a sudden we get into really kind of demeaning terminology, oh, you're crazy, or you're seeing a therapist. What's wrong with you? I think that a good way I like to explain it is, what? All of us we are all body, mind, and spirit. So that means that what happens with the body, if there's something wrong, if we're out of balance, maybe we need to adjust the diet. Maybe if we break an arm, we need to go put it in, get it set in a cast. Similarly, there's a lot of things in life that affect our emotions, and if our emotions go out of balance, then we're not going to function very well. We might be too stressed out, maybe we need a break. We might be kind of depressed, maybe we need to see what's been going on in life, so that we're able to function with balance. And I think, we're not all heads walking around. We're not just minds. We're not just hearts. And we're not just bodies. But if you notice people in your life, and even ourselves, we all tend to hang out more in one area or another. Like, those people who live at the gym, they're gym rats and that's all they do. And they're obsessed with their protein and all of this kind of thing. Or those people who are all about their emotions and their choices and their lives ride on their emotions, etc. Right? But ideally we want to be in balance. So I try to kind of bring it back to balance, so that we're not really, yeah. So that tends to be something that I think translates in some way.
Thank you for that, Dr. Rajan. And then
Yeah.
Kigado Majama asked, I think this is a really good question. How can I boost my self-esteem? Do you have any strategies, Dr. Rajan, for that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Boosting your self esteem. I think that, oftentimes one of the things I think that's important is to start affirming affirming who you are, right? I think a lot of times who we are gets mixed up in all of the expectations around us, right? Because our work, our jobs have expectations, our parents, our families have expectations. Sometimes there's cultural expectations. And the truth is, if we start to live from the ego space, then we start to equate our identity with what we do or don't do, with how we succeed or we don't succeed. But what we never really do enough of is to simply honor different qualities about ourselves. So a good exercise, I think, and it won't feel, you won't have an emotional change at first. It takes time. Emotions, believe it or not, emotions are a habit at a certain level. Why do I say that? Because emotions follow thoughts and feelings follow thoughts. So if we're thinking in a certain way, we're going to be having those thoughts reflected by how we feel. So if we want to start feeling differently, what do we need to do? We need to consider how we're thinking. So what a first step would be to have get into the space of awareness. And I teach my clients to have meditative moments. What do I mean by that? um, Meditative moments are simply moments in which we observe. So if I can just observe, what am I noticing right now? What am I noticing in my body? What am I noticing in my mind? And just wait and start to observe. I'll bet that you have negative thoughts about yourself. If you have negative thoughts, then surely those negative feelings follow. So see if you can, for 21 days, and I say 21 days because it takes 3 weeks to break a habit or create a new one. So for 21 days, give yourself an exercise of writing down, and you want to write down 3 affirmations about yourself. You want to make them affirmations that are believable, somewhat believable. Like, for example, if you're dealing with body shame and one of your affirmations is I'm the most beautiful woman in the world, that's probably not going to work. Right? Because we need some buy-in. You're not going to buy into that statement. It's going to be way too extreme. But let's say that my affirmation might be my body is strong and healthy, and I feel good in my body, right? If I say those things, then those are going to be push me more in a positive direction. And pretty soon you will start to feel better in your body. So, like that, create 3 affirmations, say them to yourself in the mirror. Okay, I would say 3 times in a row, couple times a day for 21 days. And see, and you'll start to feel yourself shift. It's a simple way. It's a simple exercise. The feelings aren't going to change right away, but if you get into a habit of doing it, you'll experience changes. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they say it takes about 2 months to form a habit? So if you like do it for 8 weeks, it becomes a habit.
Oh, well, there's different articles and research out there, but what I've found to be true is that 3 weeks is it's a good marking point. That's when you can start to see some shift. Obviously, the longer you do it, it's going to be better. It's going to be, because what you do when you do it is the neurological aspect of that is, in our brains we have these um, we make associations in the brain. So these channels that form together, they wire together, and that's what neurologically creates those create grooves in your brain, which means that you have now a belief. The deeper those grooves go, the more strongly you believe and the more strongly you feel. So obviously, if you're doing something for 8 weeks, it's going to be much stronger than if you do it for 3. But I think that if you do it for 3 weeks, you'll start to experience some changes. Yeah, because
Yeah.
over that time, the negative aspects break apart, and then we rewire how we're thinking. Yeah. So,
Definitely. Thank you for that, Dr. Rajan. And then this is a
sure.
really good question because I think that going into the new year, there's a lot of burnout and people who don't even want to go back to work because they've been on
Yeah.
vacation. But Coco the Shark Girl, she asked, "How can I
Love
get
that
a
name.
better?" I love that name. That's so creative.
So cute. Yeah.
I know. And she asked, "How can I get a better work-life balance?"
That is a great question, and it's an important one. Um, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries is what I will say. Usually, when you're out of balance, whether it's work and personal life, or whether if it's like with food and diet or whatever, it's because the boundaries are not in place usually. So, if, for example, you tend to work longer hours, then you need to make that promise to yourself. 5 o'clock comes and I'm done. And whatever doesn't get done, I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to trust that I'm going to pick it up the next day. And it'll be really uncomfortable at first. It'll be really hard to walk away. But that's, at a certain point, we have to draw those boundaries for ourselves. And if it involves maybe a boss that pushes too hard or somebody who has way too many expectations, then it's difficult, but you need to advocate for yourself and let them know, hey, you know what, actually, I need, this is the end of the workday, and or so I'm not taking any more work home, but I will be here on time and I'll be working on it again tomorrow. Or it's those are the things that we have to be willing to do for ourselves so that we can start to experience being empowered and feeling good about our lives. Because once you have balance like that, you're not going to dread work anymore. You're probably going to feel better at work, so. Mhm. Oh, I can't hear you, Michelle.
I think that when it comes to work-life balance, it also requires a sense of, like, reflection. If you really have a hard time going, is this the job for you? That's
True.
a
Very
question to
true.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, I think a lot of times we kind of see work as a means to an end. But yeah, are you happy? Right? Is your work not just giving you a paycheck, but how is it, impacting you in your life? How is it impacting you in your relationships? And how is it causing you to see yourself and feel about the time you spent? Yeah.
Exactly. And then our next question is from Puneet. He asks, "How to handle that feeling which comes when someone triggers insecurity in a group?" I think he's talking about, like, how do you deal with insecurity in a group setting, and especially when someone triggers that in you, like maybe someone's rude to you or they make a snide comment.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard one because insecurity oftentimes has deep roots, right? So usually when people are insecure, it has to do with some kind of repetitive pattern that has developed in life. And I would say in a group setting, obviously, if it happens in a group setting, it can create embarrassment. It can create, a magnification of those feelings. So I think it's important to mentally, remind yourself, okay, I'm okay. I'm going to breathe and just take a pause mentally, take a moment. If you have to excuse yourself, excuse yourself. I'm going to run to the restroom or whatever, and then take a breath, recompose yourself and come back and remind yourself that people's I don't know exactly what that trigger, I mean, the trigger, whatever the trigger is important too, because if you have somebody who's being rude or overbearing or whatever, then I think you have every right to speak up and say, that didn't feel very good when you said that, or I don't appreciate that comment. If that's something that's maybe too difficult for you, maybe you're too shy or it's too much, then it's fine to excuse yourself, whether from that moment or maybe from the group for a bit or whatever. But I think I would need a bit more information to kind of more specifically help you. But I think, again, we come back to boundaries, and we come back to being able to speak up and say, yeah, I didn't appreciate that. Or if you are able to have some internal boundaries, maybe you don't say anything out loud, but you're able to kind of mentally remind yourself, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. I know what this person's like. I'm going to breathe and I'm not going to take this in, because we need to be advocating for ourselves, whether with internal boundaries or whether, speaking up and asserting external boundaries. Yeah. Oh, can't hear you. No, I can't. I don't know.
Uh, can you hear
Ah,
me?
gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, Princess Emil asked, "What do you think our society is? Do you think our society is controlled by propaganda, and do you think it's a good thing?" Maybe she means
Ooh.
commercialism and capitalism.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a powerful question. I do. I think that there's, when we talk about the media, whether it's commercials or whether it's brands or politics or whatever, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's circulating out there. We have a society that preys on our fears, that preys on our insecurities, that always wants us to look better, feel better, be better, whether or not it serves us, right? So I think that a lot of times marketing, preys on us in those ways, like, oh, your tennis shoe is not good enough. You need to get this tennis shoe because that's really better and faster and cooler. Or you're not pretty enough, so you need to wear this. There's so much out there like that. I mean, I think the thing that troubles me about it is that, again, it takes us away from being true to who we are. I think a lot of times when it's really extreme. I think that I used to teach, I used to be an at-risk high school teacher before I was a psychologist, and I used to work with an all-girls probation and social services class. So, I would do a whole unit on health and attitudes about the body. And, I think that one of the big things out there is airbrushing the body and making for these perfect women in these ads that don't really exist. That's not real. A lot of propaganda, that's what propaganda is all about. It's inflated. It's not all true, and it's designed to hook us emotionally. And what happens when we get emotionally hooked? We react. And remember what I said at the beginning, we don't want to live reactively, we want to live responsively. So when you feel that hook, it's important to take a step back and go, whoa, that's a strong feeling I'm having. What's that about? Is that true? And that's a question I ask when we talk about propaganda is it true? Is it?
Do your
Do I,
research.
what's that? Yeah, do your research,
Yeah.
and go within yourself. And you got to learn to trust your own intuition, right? And ask yourself, is that true for me? Does that work for me? Or what do I think about that? Right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Um, can you hear me? Sorry,
Yep,
my
I
mic.
gotcha.
You.
Yeah.
And so, just a normal person asks, how do you let go of some expectations that really pull you down? It's harming when it's harming your mental peace. How do you let go of this? How do you let go and accept things just as they are? This is a great question because sometimes
Hmm.
you just have to let things be.
Well, I think the thing is when we really hold on tight to expectations, we're letting go of who we are. Oftentimes we start to forget ourselves. We start to, you know, be willing to change and, kind of contort ourselves into any shape to make ourselves fit the situation. And that never turns out well. So if there is a very strong expectation, the question I would ask is, why is this affecting me so much? Why do I think this is important? Right. And does it really fit with who I am? If I'm having a hard time with this expectation, am I being unreasonable? Like, for example, with studying, right? If my goal is to be a 4.0 student, that's a great goal. But if I'm not, if I don't have a life otherwise, then that's not a good way to go about it, right? So maybe my expectations are unrealistic in the sense that, of course, I can be an A student, but I can't forego the rest of my life to do it. I mean, that's not going to end well. That's not going to be good. It's going to be out of balance. So I would first ask the question, why does this mean so much to me? Um, why is it something that I'm feeling pressure from? And is it really something that's healthy for me? Is it something that jives with who I am? and then take another step and look at it and see if there's a way to tone it down a little bit, or if it's maybe not a good expectation to have. What is it that's harming me? What kind of life do I want? And to be able to ask yourself, okay, what is a compassionate response here? How can I have compassion for myself if I'm doing something to harm myself, or if this expectation is putting way too much pressure on me? What's the compassionate thing here? Maybe it's about taking breaks. Maybe it's about letting go of something that is completely throwing my life out of balance, or whatever that might be for you.
Exactly. I agree with that. Just not paying attention to what doesn't serve you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then the art of confusion asks how to be more comfortable. How can I be more comfortable with myself? It's a good
Oh,
one.
that's a great question. It's funny. I think a lot of times when you're not comfortable with yourself, we tend to fill our lives with all kinds of stuff to distract from who we are, whether that's TV, or whether that's being out with people all the time, or whether that's we tend to not want to be with ourselves if we're not comfortable with ourselves. So I think it's a great exercise to start to spend time by yourself doing things, and spend time by yourself intentionally. So I think journaling is a great way to do that. Starting to write in a journal how you feel about yourself. What is it that you aspire to? What are the things that you like about yourself? And starting to maybe spend time. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I decided to take a break from dating, and I took myself out on a date. And I actually bought myself flowers. I got really dressed up. I made reservations at this really great restaurant, live music, and somebody offered to buy me a drink. I said no, I'm with someone. I didn't accept the drink.
You didn't accept the drink?
I didn't
Oh,
accept the drink because I was with someone, and nobody showed up at my table for the rest of the night. So I don't know what he thought. But anyway, I was with myself, and I wasn't going to be with anyone else. I was spending the evening with myself. So as you do that, you start to see the world a little differently. You start to, I started to appreciate things about myself. I started to appreciate, myself for, my taste. Oh, I love this restaurant. Look at the ambiance. Oh, the music is so great. Wow, I have good taste. Or, I mean, there are little things that can start to lift your attitude up about yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. People think, oh my God, I can't go to the movies, or I can't eat at a restaurant by myself. Why not? I've done that so many times. Taking
too.
a journal with you, take a book, and go to a really good coffee house or whatever.
And the great
Hmm.
thing is that you usually are your own best friend. So that means you can do whatever you want. You can pick whatever movie you want, whatever
Hmm.
snacks you want, whatever restaurant you want.
Yeah. And pay
Fun.
attention, as you do those things, pay attention to the thoughts that come up, and you'll start to get insights into what you've been believing about yourself. Right. And then as you start to hone into those thoughts, then you start to realize, oh, okay, these are where these negative feelings are coming from. Right.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And then the next question is from Shirley Burton. She asks, how do I deal with hostility between family members throughout the holiday season? I feel like my Christmas has been a nightmare
Mm.
this year. I'm sorry, Shirley.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What a drag. I'm so sorry, Shirley. That is such a common situation, unfortunately. And what I will say to you, Shirley, is that regardless of what circumstances are going on around us, and the holidays are such a sensitive time because everybody goes into the holidays with expectations, with a need to take a break or a desire to connect, or there's so many emotions flying around, or dread, or frustration, or resentment. So it becomes, again, more, this is where it becomes important to set your intentions before you spend time with anyone. Take some time to go out and look at the decoration. I mean, I took some time by myself on Christmas Eve, just took a walk by myself to really take in, all of this beauty around me. And it put me in a mood. I was very, I felt very good about, the holidays, and I felt very happy. Do that for yourself before you spend time with anyone. And then you have to focus on, this is my Christmas. My emotions are my own. I have, we feel like everybody makes us sad, makes us angry. That's actually not true. We all have way more power than we think we do. You have power over your emotions. You get to be happy, even if everyone around you is upset, even if things around you are not working out. I mean, it's uncomfortable for sure, but and maybe that means you take a break and you take a walk. Maybe that means you go to a different room. So if you know that you're going to a household where there's a lot of tension, take little things that'll be kind of a way out for you. Like take a book, so that you can go to a different room and read, or maybe if there's a park nearby, you can go take a walk. But you're not going to change anyone. I think that's the trap everyone gets into, is they start to get sucked into saying something or doing something, and pretty soon you're in that tornado too. Be clear on this is my holiday. And if somebody asks you something, you can say, actually, I enjoy Christmas and I'm having a good day today. Sorry things are not going well for you. I hope you guys figure that out, but I'm having a good time. And as you set your boundary and you set your intention, you'll find the eye of the hurricane. You can have peace even in the midst of whatever else is going on around you. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, and so then Florida asks how to help a friend that's struggling and doesn't have the motivation to get better. Is there any way? You shouldn't put that burden on yourself, in my opinion, but go ahead,
hmm
Dr. John.
Yeah, no, we can't change anyone. We can't change. One of the hardest things is to watch people that you care about making choices that create more and more distress for themselves or make themselves feel worse, or they get further trapped in a bad habit or something. It's lovely that you care about your friend, and you can let her know, hey, you know what, I care about you, I see you, and I'm here. I'm wanting to support you. So when you're ready to make different choices, I'm right here. Or if you want to listen, I'm right here. But as far as you know getting someone to change, that's even if you are able to somehow convince them, it's not going to be a lasting change, not until they're convinced that they want to change. And so being able to accept that and still be present to support, that's tough, that's challenging, but that's really all you can do. Yeah.
Exactly. There's
hmm
nothing you can do about it if they don't want to change, right?
hmm yeah, that's right. Real change comes from within. Yeah. No one gets a
Chloe,
pass on that. I wish it
exactly.
could happen other ways, but it can't.
You have to save yourself.
Yeah. hmm
And then Chloe asked, what do you do when you are aware you need professional help, but you're too scared to tell someone? Wow, Chloe, that's
Oh,
really brave of you to bring that
yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you brought it to this space. If you know that you need extra, and I don't know if you're a minor and you need to tell your parents if that's what the issue is, or if you feel like you want someone to support you. I think that I guess obviously it would have meant I would want to know more information about what the issue is, but it becomes critical to, even though it's hard, you have to say something about it, because otherwise you're the one who's going to have to suffer, who will suffer through it. And I don't know who you have in your life or what the situation is, but if you can simply, if you can keep it to, I really feel like I need some help with this. You don't have to share a lot of details. Maybe that'll help you to be a little bit, just open enough to be able to ask for help. But the fact that you want to see a professional, I think that's really good. I think that the people who love you, I don't know if it will be apparent to them that you're struggling, but sharing just enough so that they understand there is something here, and I really do want to try to handle it. Could you please support me? And if you feel like you don't have someone that can support you, there are hotlines where you can talk to counselors, and they might be able to talk to you in the interim. Um, and that might be a good way so that you're not completely unsupported. But my advice certainly would be to, even if you don't disclose a lot, go to the person you feel most comfortable to speaking to, and garner support that way. because definitely if you feel you need professional help, you don't want to put that off.
Thank you. And then Pretty Me ask, I feel guilty of being happy whenever everyone around me is going through stuff. How to get rid of guilt? This is a great question because sometimes I
Mhm.
deal with that too, especially if maybe you have a best friend or a partner who's going through something, and it can be you might feel guilt if your life is going in a great direction, but they're going through something. So
Mhm.
I can this is relatable.
Yeah, you deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be happy. And I think that that guilt is tied to perhaps just wanting the people that you love and care about to be happy also. But and so I would say, rather than kind of focusing on that tension point between, wow, my life's actually going well and everybody around me is kind of going through it, being able to sort of be in a space of, okay, I'm going to detach and I'm just going to listen, you know and I think that if you're in a space of listening, you can kind of reflect back to people what maybe they might need to hear. Sometimes people need to vent or talk, and sometimes even if they are your best friend or close to you, family members who care about you, they can feel resentment or frustration because everything's going so great for someone else, and why not me? I would say, affirm for yourself. You deserve to be happy. And then maybe, set the intention that, okay, I'm going to be a bit more detached and I'm just going to listen. I'm going to be in a listening space. So that way you're really focused on them, and then they can lead the conversation however it's going to go. And that way you're not sitting there going, well, I don't know, I can't really share anything because everything's going great. I would do that, because that way you're present, you're there, you're not and get in self-indulging in their presence, and they're not, they're the ones who are in need. So you can kind of be in a space where you're supportive and you're also yourself, because you deserve to be happy. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, our last question is by Ichigo. She asked, he or she asked, I have a necessary question. How can I overcome perfectionism in life? It is affecting my study life so hard, and I don't believe in myself like I used to. I'm sorry to
Oh
hear
my goodness. Yeah, that sounds like a really tough situation to be in. Perfectionism's a tough one. No one's perfect. It's just, it's true. No one is perfect. So I think that, one of the best pieces of advice I got was that, um, it's if you can be good, don't be outstanding. And what does that mean? That kind of sounds a little odd, right? But what it means is that, when you are striving to be perfect all the time, you're sacrificing so many other things, right? I would be willing to bet that if you're really in that perfectionistic energy, you probably have other things in your life that are really, really lacking. But I'd be willing to bet that you can probably be at a very high level with whatever it is you're doing, and still get your grades, get whatever it is you're looking to get. And then it opens up so much more energy and time to do other things in your life. And as you build other things into your life, you start to realize, wow, this is great. I actually have a couple more hours a day than I used to. Now I'm able to do this other thing that I've wanted to do. Now I'm able to see the friends that I've missed, or whatever. But usually with perfectionism, it means two things. One, that we're hyper focused on something to the exclusion of everything else. And two, we're afraid. There's some kind of fear or anxiety, or like I think you mentioned, a lack of confidence that's fueling that. And so it becomes important to detach and go, okay, wait a minute, my value is not coming from my perfect performance. I am valuable, period. Whether I get a good result, a bad result, a mediocre result, I'm valuable. And that's where we need to spend. I think it would be good for you to spend more time and energy affirming that, because something in you needs to hear that. And I think you're compensating by trying to really be absolutely, perfect every single time. And all that's going to do, it's going to increase your need for it. It's going to, because it's being fed on by your anxiety, by your lack of confidence. And it's going to get exhausting. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
definitely. So thank you guys to our viewers for these amazing questions. I'm sure it's helped a lot of people who are maybe, they're afraid to ask or they don't feel comfortable asking. So Dr. Rajan, I wanted to know what's the best piece of advice you can give all of our viewers going into this new year?
Okay. Well, Michelle and I were talking a little bit before the show, and I want to reiterate, life is a mixed bag, and whether we're at the end of the year or a new year, accept that, yeah, there will be things that happen that, what you fear, what you dread, some of those things will come, but they'll come holding hands with whatever you dream of, because that's the nature of life. The nature of life is not all bad, it's not all fantastic. Usually we land somewhere in the middle. But if you can be in a place of acceptance, then you're not going to get knocked off your feet if something, unexpected happens, or you get disappointed or something. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be able to roll with it, whatever happens, and you're really gonna enjoy the really great things that happen, because you'll be present and you'll be in a place of acceptance of, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a great year, and I'm excited for the new adventures. I'm excited for the new lessons, and I'm also excited for the new blessings. And I think that's kind of more realistic in terms of how to approach the new year. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. That was beautiful. And I think that
Mm.
it's really helpful and valuable to so many people who are uneasy about the new year, feel like things are, maybe not going the way they want them to. So a big thank you to our viewers as well.
Oh,
Appreciate you.
fantastic. It's been great to be here.
Yes, and I can't wait for the next one. We will have, more holiday specials coming up in the future. And a big thank you to Dr. Rajan. We appreciate you so much. Our viewers love you.
Oh, I love you guys. And you know what? Make it a great new year and enjoy this week. Be present to all the good, because there's a lot of good here. Yeah. So
So I wanted to address this. Someone asked, when will the next live stream like this be? Well, hopefully we're gonna do one for Valentine's Day. That would
that's a
be
big
really,
one.
yeah. So a big thank you to you guys, and have an amazing day and a happy new year.
Happy New Year, everyone. 2024. It's right around the corner.
Bye,
So.
everyone.